This program was made possible by grants from Mass Mutual Financial Group, comprised of member companies with over $240 billion in assets. Mass Mutual is a global financial services company providing a variety of financial products and services. Gynacare Worldwide, a Johnson & Johnson company, transforming women's health. ING and IHateFinancialPlanning.com.
ING, the beginning of something better.
DePuy, a Johnson & Johnson company, working to improve your quality of life. Classic Residence by Hyatt, resort-style rental and continuing care retirement communities from coast to coast. Belmont Village, honoring aging as a gift with assisted living communities that are built for life.
Hello, I'm Mercedes Ruehl, and welcome to the world of America's seniors, a world that is changing, and changing rapidly. In the U.S. today, the number of people aged 65 years or older is estimated by the Census Bureau to be over 40 million. That number is projected to be doubled by 2050, when the population of seniors will be larger than the population of children under 14 for the first time in history. In this program, you'll meet a variety of seniors who do not see the last third of their lives as the end. They're busy living in very productive and often creative ways, moving forward in time.
People who are 65 today are really equivalent to people who were 55 a generation earlier. We're staying healthier, much more vital, better educated. We have lots of examples in our society of people in their 70s, 80s, and even 90s who are very active and productive and very involved. So there's lots of reasons to be optimistic.
No end at all. No end in sight at all. I'm not going. Okay, I'm not giving in, I'm not giving up. No, not at all. The thing that's so insane about our country is that they don't honor older people. We're positive, exciting people. We don't have the fear of life as we used to have as a young person, having to make a living, having to take the children to school, having to do all the things that we were responsible for. We don't have responsibility now except for ourselves. I don't use the word old. I want that struck from my vocabulary. Because the minute you are born, you're getting older. So I'm an older person. I'm not an old person. There's a big difference. And that with medicine today, we're living longer. And as long as this brain is working and the body is okay and not riddled with any kind of disease, why should I be denied fulfillment of my life? We're geared to pushing ahead, being aggressive, get there fast. Because now, if they say that a cutoff age is 40, what the heck is it like to be a 20-year-old and knowing I have 20 years in which to make it, otherwise I'm finished? Kids in their 20s or 30s are getting Botox and facelifts. We're going in the wrong direction. In the last 100 years, the average age of a winner of a Pulitzer Prize was 65 years old. Now, according to Madison Avenue, you would go to Picasso and say, you can't paint anymore, you don't know what it's about. What are they talking about? Madison Avenue, you're losing a lot of bucks. We've got the money, 77% of all the money in the United States we are in charge of. So don't ignore us. We are gathering in numbers that you cannot believe. In less than 25 years, 115 more million people will be over the age of 50. We will be the oldest population in history. Why are they not honoring older people who have wisdom? In an Arab country, there's a proverb that says, if you don't have an older person in your house, rent one. I'm at the peak of my career. I haven't peaked yet, and I'm having a great time. I'm getting a star on the Hollywood Boulevard. I have written a book, and that's coming out for Mother's Day, and it's called Are You Hungry, Dear? I cannot tell you how exciting my life is. In a hit show that I love doing, everybody loves Raymond, and everybody loves it. So why would I give that up because of my age?
In a commercial culture aimed at the young, we don't like to think about aging. Although aging is as inescapable as the phases of the moon, negative stereotypes about older adults proliferate. Unfortunately, they still find their loudest expression in the workplace. I make my living as an actress, and as much as I enjoy biking, canoeing, and sailing in my spare time, I couldn't imagine being told that I was too old to perform anymore. So why would we think that an older worker, like Victor Rabondo of Williston Park, New York, whose way of life has been vital, interesting, and productive, would not want to sustain that life as long as possible?
As long as I'm healthy and I could work, I'd love to work, feel that I'm capable of doing something, and whatever it is, I'll do it. My quality of life is great. It's just great. I have what I need. I work a lot with my computer. I do a lot of writing. I don't like to be lonely in the house. I like to get out and accomplish something for myself. As long as I'm healthy, I'll work.
Surveys have shown consistently that baby boomers all plan on working longer than their predecessors. 90% of the employers know that their workforce is getting older, but have not even begun to consider what that means for them.
I can enjoy my life and work at the same time. I have a lady friend I see, and we go out dancing, and we go to, like tonight, we'll be going to the opera, and we'll be going other places. And that's part of my enjoyment. You know, when you go someplace with a person and you share things with them, I think it's the greatest thing in the world. Sarah and I go dancing a lot, and we always dance the whole night through. Keeps you young, keeps you slim. If you go to dance and you're not feeling good, by the time you get dancing, you feel better. I like to spin her around and push her around. She does the merengue and she gets in front and she does those body moves. It's unbelievable. She makes me feel like Valentino at times. At 78, you're not like you were when you were young. People ask me, do you take Viagra? I say, once in a while. Computer, to me, I think, is the most educational piece of equipment that there is. And I have a nice collection here. It's mostly classical, but a lot of Frank Sinatra and Jimmy Roselli. This is Sarah and I's favorite theme from the opera. And we dance to this just to the music. I look at myself, and every morning I get up and just say, thank you, Jesus, I'm here another day. When I get a good bill of health from the doctor, it's always like having money in the bank. The hearts are young and balalaik is way. I have a rendezvous.
New opportunities for lifelong learning and risk-taking are redefining the experience of aging. Not only can you teach an old dog new tricks, but that old dog can take that learning and start a business to teach a lot of other seniors the joy of learning something new that they can use for the rest of their lives. Such was the case for Emily Kimball, the aging adventurer from Richmond, Virginia.
For me, risk-taking is kind of stretching beyond something that you think you can do and trying it anyway. And I think a lot of people are afraid to do it because they're pretty comfortable where they are now. They know the outcomes, they know the routines, they know what's going to happen, and it's safe. Earlier in my life, I got divorced, and I had 3 young children at the time. And I decided I probably was going to have to work for the rest of my life, and I wanted to do something that I really loved. So at that point in my 40s, I took my first really big risk. I quit that high-paying job and went back to school and changed careers into my passion, which was love of the outdoors. I ended up getting a job with the Parks and Rec Department as the outdoor adventure director. I was teaching people about what I loved about the outdoors, teaching them lifelong skills and seeing them take them away and live them. I think when you first retire, even if you have some goals, it's kind of a trial and error thing. So it takes a while. And that's why I think people shouldn't jump into something. They should take the time to find that balance in life that is really in tune with their inner self. In the middle years, we get out of tune with that self because we're so darn busy and we're parents and we're working and we got all the responsibilities of the world. I put a lot of thought into it that I wanted to do long distance hiking, biking, canoeing trips that got me out near nature in the wilderness and got a lot of physical activity. That's what I love. I joined the bike club and I found a senior tennis group. So therefore I could do my exercise, be with friends, make new friends, and have company, you know, so I could meet that social need. I'm not a social worker or a psychotherapist, but I'm really good at figuring out how to make your dreams happen and encouraging you. But I feel like my business is giving back because I am talking to people about their lives, and it's a helpful kind of business, I hope. As a sociologist, I describe retirement as it's a role-less role. Society doesn't expect much of you. They say, you know, have your leisure, and maybe a grandparent would be a role. But outside of that, they're not expecting a lot from you. And some people look at that and say, poor me, you know, no one cares about me anymore. I guess I'll just go home and sit in the old rocking chair. The best thing we could do is to live our lives fully and not take the descriptions of what we should be doing, and don't listen to the naysayers, and just be who you are and don't be embarrassed about your age. Recent studies are reported by Dr. Gene Cohen talk about that the mental stimulation is as important as the exercise to keep you young and to keep you healthy.
One of the really exciting findings about older people involved in productive activities, creative activities, everyday creativity, and who are socially engaged in the process is that many of these activities have the same positive health outcomes as a vigorous physical exercise. And so this has been a real eye-opener. We all know the value of vigorous physical exercise, but we hadn't really appreciated the profound role on health in activities where older people are socially engaged and a chance to be productive. When you challenge your mind, your brain cells actually sprout new projections, like a tree sprouting new branches. And this continues regardless of age. So it's important to stay challenged because you're keeping your brain vital. Modern neuroscience has not only validated folk advice that has shown us use it or lose it, but with aging it's taken folk advice a step further and showing that it's never too late to use it to prevent losing it.
You have the opportunity in your later years to create a life for yourself. And we do need to think about what we want to do before we're retired. And if we're one of those workaholic people that have no hobbies and don't have fun on the weekends and don't really have some leisure pursuits, it's going to be very hard in retirement. Some of the risks you need to take are kind of very small steps. And to one person, they could be nothing. And to another person, they could be a huge thing. If you can break through some of those barriers, then that thing you've broken through becomes part of your life. I mean, maybe it won't work out. Maybe, heaven forbid, you'll fail. So sometimes when you fail, you have to figure out, you know, a different way to do it. I think it's much worse to go to your grave wondering what would have happened if you'd done this or so and never knowing. But not trying and not taking a risk, I think kind of leads to kind of live a dull life.
I had seen where my father worked a lot of his life and then just sat down in a chair and died. And that had a major impact on me because I said, when I retire, there's no way I'm going to sit in a chair. No way am I going to waste away. I'm going to get out there and constantly be active and be productive at something. You don't strand yourself, and that's the key to it. You live longer, the more productive you are. And it isn't about necessarily living longer, it's living better.
One of the ways that thousands of today's seniors maintain a vital physical and social connection to their community is through volunteerism. People volunteer for a wide variety of reasons, especially wanting to help others. But it's also okay to want some benefits for yourself from volunteering. When Paul Cummins of Parkton, Maryland, and Pat Hill of Scottsdale, Arizona, retired, they knew that they wanted to continue being active and productive.
We actually put computers in senior homes and teach them how to use it. We will take a computer station and put it in an assisted living area, take a computer lab and put it in neighborhood settings with sponsors, which we call sponsors. It could be a church, it could be a Y. They run the program, they open the doors, but we provide the computer lab. The last component is our support for the refurbishing of the computers, which are donated from various sources and upgraded for use to be put into the homes and the program in general. Here was an opportunity to take experience, things that I had done in my life, and really apply it to a whole new environment. I'm not paid, and I work full-time. And I said, as long as you will fund this program to the level you are now, I will stay. I have no regrets, and I'm not looking forward to something that I haven't done. Although if something comes along that's an opportunity for that I haven't done before, I'll be glad to try it out.
I really never expected to live long enough to retire. And just before I retired, I sort of had a flash, and I thought, oh, I'm going into an exciting new life. You know, I used to be a workaholic. When I retired, they were taking bets about how long it would take me to be back to work. I was talking to a friend that I've made here at Oasis that used to be a performer, and we thought what fun it would be. And we had a stage available to us, and it was very hard work. I wrote it, I produced it. I'd never done anything like that before. I knew nothing about it. We chose Cole Porter because everybody's familiar with the music. There's a lot of nostalgia for that. As bad as we were, the audience was just beaming through most of it and giving a lot of thanks. Very hard work, but it was a lot of fun. It never occurred to me to do anything like that before. But as the opportunities float by or somebody drops a suggestion and we're off and running again. I am awestruck that I'm 78. I'm pleased. I don't want life that isn't quality. But just to stay alive, to have it be an endurance contest has no interest for me. But my job is to see my life does have quality.
Physically and emotionally, the majority of today's seniors are younger than their parents or grandparents. The result has been an explosion of creativity, activity, and enthusiasm among seniors who are in no way discouraged by the realization that they can't do quite as much as before. For Marjorie Rosenthal of New York City and Leo Paverman of Cambridge, Massachusetts, advances in medical technology are allowing them to enjoy a higher quality of life than they thought possible.
One always wonders what one's going to do on retirement. When it came time, there was no question that we would not go south. That's not our style. I think upon retirement, you must have certain plans of what to do, how to spend time. I was terrified by what a friend of mine told me when he moved to Florida. He said, don't go to the cleaners and the drugstore the same day. Make it two different activities, so both days are busy. That thought terrified me. Part of it was also determined by my knee replacements. When my stepson was giving me a great deal of grief of not continuing to play tennis as often as I did, and the way I moved on the court, I knew was obviously damaged goods. Luckily, I had very good friends, and they did the running. No, I didn't carry my weight. I was unhappy with the slowing down, but I thought that's the way it's going to be, and I was having to make my peace with it.
We get old by stopping doing things. And to the extent that the arthritis tends to stop you from doing things, it really is a very strong contributor to the aging process.
When I discussed knee replacement with orthopods in New York, they told me play as long as you can because you're not going to play anymore. Dr. Thornhill, when I saw him, said, I can't guarantee that you'll play tennis again, but the chances are very strong that you'll be able to. I realized from our conversation that it was going to happen sometime. And when I got home, I called and made a date for surgery. I also decided I called the people with whom I'd work and resign and finished. I'll have the surgery and I'll enjoy the rest of the summer.
In order to be a candidate for joint replacement, you need to have bad arthritis in the joint in question because that's what we correct. You also need to have pain. Pain is the major predominant symptom, and it's the best thing that we can correct. The pain that you have that can affect both your thought process, how you feel about yourself, how you feel about your loved ones and your family, and it's also a matter of the fear of being able to lose your ability to take care of yourself. Tennis is more than just hitting a tennis ball. It may be the group of 4 men or women who get together and play some tennis and then talk about the world.
Dr. Thornhill was very clear. He told me it was a very painful process, and I had to be prepared for that. He told me that I'd be incapacitated for a while, 2 or 3 weeks before I can be off crutches, 6 weeks before I could drive a car, 6 months before I could play tennis. But I thought 6 months, that's not terrible. I'll play again. He restricted me by saying I can only play doubles and play on a clay court, an easy compromise to make.
Patients with a hip or a knee replacement can return to virtually all of their activities of daily living. Walking, driving, doing the things that they need to do on a day-to-day basis. There are some things that we strongly encourage, such as swimming and bicycle riding and making sure that they go up and down stairs and get their exercise.
If one had to weigh the quality of life versus longevity of life and say which one is more important, quality of life is infinitely more important to me than longevity.
One of the most gratifying aspects of my job is watching the patient's function return. Patient comes into the hospital with pain, can't walk, losing contact with his or her community. They have the operation, you watch them work hard. It's amazing to see on the face of the patient their ability, the burden that is taking off them.
Since the surgery, he's more relaxed. He is able to do what he wants to do, and there is no hesitation.
To be physically active maybe saves me to some degree from going to a psychiatrist. If the thought comes up, have I lost anything through the aging process? Or can I do something less well than I did before? I like to think that it's happened to other people, but not to me. Luckily, we enjoy good relations with our children, and I think they with us. Being near our grandchildren was important. It's seeing them grow, seeing them change, and always being conscious that I could be influencing them somehow. I could make them Giant fans. I could make them Democrats. Or, failing that, maybe I could teach them to play tennis or even throw a ball. If they can have the capacity for enthusiasm, I think I would encourage them to be conscious of that. They have to fall in love every day. They must get enthusiastic about something every day.
In my 30s, I was too busy rearing children and doing New York's Upper East Side matron kinds of things, which was being a volunteer in various organizations and being president of the PTA. In the last 10 years, I've been traveling a great deal to very exotic places, things that I probably wouldn't have done before with quite the same enthusiasm. After the divorce, I had 3 destinations that I absolutely had to do. The first was the Galapagos, the second was Kenya, and the third was India. And the next trip is to Patagonia, and that will be with the penguins and more birds and seals. Being on my own, I got to call the shot. I got to decide.
He gets a little bit of arthritis, but you seem to be doing pretty well, and your flexibility is pretty good, so.
It did make me feel older, and yes, it probably made me stop and think in the morning that I was no longer as free to do what I wanted because there was another step involved in getting dressed in the morning. The process started with a gynecologist mentioning that the condition seemed to be getting worse, and he thought maybe I should think about it. So I thought about it, and I thought about it. I went to see Dr. Nitti. He told me what was available, what the various options were for surgery, whether or not I was a good candidate, and that he could promise almost a complete lack of stress incontinence. And then I waited and I waited and I waited, and finally I called up and made an appointment to have the surgery.
All right, so here's our patient who is going to undergo a TVT later this week. And we did this urodynamic study. When you have successful surgery for stress incontinence, the changes that you can see in patients can be dramatic, especially when that incontinence was really inhibiting them from doing the things they want to do. Particularly, we're looking at treatments for stress incontinence or loss of urine with activities such as coughing, sneezing, or sometimes even simpler activities, walking, bending. Sometimes the loss can be so significant that it can really have a major impact on quality of life.
I think the biggest fear was of pain and discomfort for that day, but not a great deal because I truly had expected to go to theater that night.
The beauty of the procedure is that it can usually be accomplished in 20 to 30 minutes with about a 2-hour stay in the hospital. Patients are then discharged home with minimal discomfort, usually able to urinate on their own after surgery without the need for long-term catheterization.
I'm glad I took this step, which I don't know why at the time I finally made the decision, but I'm delighted I made the decision to have the surgery. No longer having to worry about stress incontinence truly makes my life a lot easier and more pleasant. I am a dyed-in-the-wool New Yorker. No, I am not fearful. The only thing that really surprises me, and I've had to swallow hard, is when I'm offered a seat on the bus. And it happens more than once. And the first time it happened, I really got upset. And afterwards, I said, take advantage of it. And people are really very nice. I ride the subway everywhere. I have made lots of women friends, and we go to the opera all the time, and we go to the Philharmonic all the time, go to theater, movies, which has allowed a whole new cultural experience in my life. So I've photographed this a number of times. I haven't gotten, perfect yet, but it's sort of fun. The idea of taking a hobby and making it into a profession is truly exciting, and I giggle all the time over the prospect that it is there. I do say I'm a photographer. I think nobody is surprised. I'm the one who is surprised that I am able to do this. People have said to me, I knew you were artistic, so we always knew you had it in it. It was just you who didn't know you had it in you. Everybody who was in class with me reassures me that, the stuff is sellable. It just is a matter of getting it all together and doing it. So that's why I think I'm pleasantly surprised and delighted and giggle about the fact that I'm doing all of these things that I hadn't thought about.
Even though they may have done a good job of accumulating assets, a majority of Americans are unprepared for retirement. And given challenging equity markets and an unpredictable economy, successfully planning and preparing for a comfortable retirement has become a sensitive issue for many Americans.
You know, sometimes I think the boomers, maybe like the rest of us, are part of a particular state. They all live in the United State of denial. That doesn't mean you shouldn't plan. So one of the things I feel like at ARP is we're the constant nudge saying, okay, we have all these great possibilities to look forward to. Yeah, but don't forget, you know, bad things can happen. You've got to have a plan.
It's so different than when our parents were looking at retirement. Most retirement systems were built on the premise that by the time you were 70, you were probably dead. And then the miracles of modern technology, where now instead of us living to 75 or 80 years old, there's a very good possibility that once you hit the age of 60, that you could live to be 90 or 100 years old. Over the last 20 years, things have changed dramatically. And what we found was that while 80+% of people think that they're going to live a very comfortable retirement, in a lot of ways they haven't planned certain aspects of that retirement.
A lot of people think retirement is just that last bulk of time before the end, and that's kind of depressing. The most important thing I could say is, have you asked the question, what am I going to do when I retire, many years before you get there, 10, 15 years ahead of time. Not only just how financially secure, but what are you going to do really with your life? How are you going to spend it in a quality, productive way?
When you're 50, 55, you should be spending a lot more time thinking about how much money you need and what implications that has for how much longer you work, how much you need to save. Let's say you're 65 or 70 and you've already made that decision to retire. Some of your options are now taken away from you. You don't have a full-time job, so maybe you can't work 2 or 3 years longer. What you really have to sit down then and look at is your income needs and be very thoughtful and perhaps in certain instances very frugal about how you start to draw down your retirement assets and turn those into income. Don't make overly optimistic assumptions about stock markets and bond markets growing to the sky. I think recent history has shown us that that can be a dangerous assumption. Do I need to consider working some in retirement to supplement my income? A lot of people overlook that as a very realistic possibility in retirement, and as a result do run the risk of outliving their income. You really need to separate in spending habits the need-to-haves versus the nice-to-haves. All those things need to be thoughtfully considered.
In the years before retirement, I was a genius like so many people as far as financial planning is concerned. And I knew part of it was the market, but most of it I was convinced was my financial acumen. And that bubble burst like everybody else's. I guess the first thought was to stop the hemorrhaging of the last few years, try to retain such capital as was remaining, and then we determined how much Sue and I needed to live on and still enjoy a reasonable life. And so 6 months ago I've turned it over to a financial advisor whom I have confidence, and I'm convinced that she is far more savvy than I am at this point.
How do I take the assets that I've accumulated and worked so hard to accumulate with all the sacrifices that come with that, and then turn that into income that allows me to achieve my hopes and dreams? We also encourage people to make sure that you truly drill your advisor on their understanding of creating retirement income, because it is a new and growing field that up until now with our life expectancies people really haven't had to focus on. And we're living in a totally new age now where people have to think about this much, much more differently. As you move closer to 75 and 80, the issues in retirement change fairly significantly. We look at this as probably a less healthy time for retirees, more medical expenses and things like that. And you do need to start to think about things like long-term care, how I reposition my assets to support either leaving some to my heirs or making sure that I have income for those needs.
A lot of us think that only old people need to worry about long-term care, so we put off preparing for the possibility. But actually, nearly half of those who need long-term care are younger than 65. A lot of us also think that our families and government programs will take care of us. Most of us don't want to think about long-term care, but as with other important issues, the best way to overcome our concerns is with information. Ray Smith of Denver learned that lesson the hard way.
In March of 1999, my mom was diagnosed with lung cancer, and that changed everything for our family. She was working full-time at a deli counter in a supermarket at age 80, fiercely independent. Thinking about what we were going to do, when, if, how, was something that we all avoided, and we really didn't deal with it. Mom getting sick just turned everything inside out. Obviously, we had to do something, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what the first, second, third thing to do was. Mom made it very clear she wanted to stay at home. That's where she wanted to be. I was on the phone virtually every day to my mom and to the care coordinator and to the other support people. And I learned more about long-term care and about possibilities. Do we have somebody in the house 24/7? Do we install the stair chairs? Do we, whatever it was we did, do we change physicians? Everything that we did was in the light of, is this going to make Mom more comfortable longer? Later on, as the illness took its toll and Mom could do less and less and less, she knew that she couldn't handle her personal affairs. She knew that she needed physical assistance in moving around the house and feeding and everything else. And it was difficult for me to watch this transition from here is a woman who took care of everything for herself for all these years to she couldn't even go up the stairs by herself. She couldn't eat by herself. And as I watched her yield that decision authority from herself to me, it was really sad. It was really, I mean, it really hurt to see her go from what she was to as she lost her abilities to take care of herself. It wasn't until probably shortly after she died when a light bulb flashed on for me, and it was, oh my God, what are we going to do to protect our retirement?
People think it won't happen to me. I'm going to buy long-term care insurance and pay this annual premium for a long period of time, and I'll never need the coverage. But we are seeing that 1 out of 2 individuals over age 65 need some form of long-term care.
The costs are devastating. With just a couple of years of needing long-term care, maybe even 1 year of needing long-term care, we just wouldn't be able to do what we had wanted to do.
The majority of the people that buy long-term care today are typically over about 58. And though long-term care could strike anyone at any time, I mean, the average person that's actually utilizing long-term care services is in their 70s or 80s.
I've always had the strong belief that our kids should not be responsible for our care. And we love them and they love us, but our care is my wife, Alicia, the two of us, it's our responsibility. And the best way to do that is to have an insurance policy that provides the dollars to allow me to buy the services of somebody coming in to take care of us so our children don't have to.
Do you want in-home care? Would assisted living be better for you, or perhaps being in a nursing home? And also, whatever part of the country, perhaps you'd like to be near your daughter. And having long-term care insurance and having the financial means to do all that gives you a lot of flexibility and freedom.
All of this family stuff that happens in a long-term care situation about one sibling believing that they're doing more than the other and all of that, it's avoided. They won't have to give up their lives because all of a sudden either my wife or I are ill.
It's very important, though, that you look for a high-quality insurance carrier, someone who has high ratings and has billions of dollars of assets under management.
As long as I'm healthy, I'll continue to work. When I do need care, I hope that I'm cognizant enough to be able to sort of direct it, but I know that if I'm not, my wife will or I will for her, and I'll want to stay at home. Doesn't everybody?
When asked, most Americans will tell you that they want to remain in their own homes as long as they are physically and financially able. However, as the states of Florida and Arizona can attest, many of today's seniors no longer feel tied to the brick and mortar of their homes. For many seniors, moving opens a door to a new and fulfilling lifestyle for their third age.
As you get older, you need help, you need support. in many things, not just in physical things, but ordinary, everyday living, which gets more complicated because you wind up being able to do about half as much in twice the amount of time.
The wife and I have 3 children, but they're spread all over. So we have to depend upon ourselves. We wanted a place that would have the amenities, and if we needed assisted living, that would be right there for us. That if I needed it, that the wife would be here, or we could be together in the same place.
When we started talking about this, they said, "Oh, you don't want to do that. You're too young for that. You're not ready yet. How do you like it down there?" And I said, "We'd love it." "You really do? You really do like it?" As if they couldn't believe that a couple like us could go into a place like this and enjoy it. People would say, "Don't you miss it up here?" I said, "Yes, I sure do miss it. I miss the gardener who never came on time. I miss the pool man who just filled my pool with chemicals I didn't need and he charged me for them. I miss the bug man. He always kept me from playing golf because he promised to come and never did. And I miss having to paint the place 3-4 times while I was there. All that brick and mortar that you have to keep in shape, you don't have to do that here. That release gives you the opportunity to do some of the things you weren't able to do before.
Retiring doesn't mean stopping work and sitting in a chair or watching television all day. That there are so many wonderful things to do.
The one complaint that the residents have here is that there are too many things to do. We can be hopping all day, every day. We have luncheons out and theaters and people coming in to give entertainment and Spanish classes and computer classes and all kinds of exercise classes. I'm a computer nut now because my computer is my window on the world. We started a computer club here. I'm the co-chairman, and we have 40-some members in this computer club.
Getting excited and looking forward to the day consists of getting up in the morning with nothing to do and going to bed with it half done. You can't go backward. Going backward is a recipe for a short life. You have to move ahead. Come up with a new life where you are productive. I truly believe that what others do for us will die with us, but what we do for others will live on throughout eternity. I have a passion for this giving philosophy, and that's why with the help of 3 other fellows, I organized the Classic Foundation, and we're going to be busy with that. And you feel when you do that, you've accomplished something.
As long as you don't have to worry about the income and worry about money and things of that nature, why it's an open sesame as to how many things there are for people to do.
Older people like myself, we want something to do, and we want to do it well. We want to be loved and loved in return, and then we want something to hope for. We actually do love it here.
So it's re-education of the brain.
Okay, whatever you say.
Let's go forward.
I lived in a townhouse where I had 4 flights of stairs, and I got to the point where I couldn't go up and down stairs comfortably. I had an elevator put in, and that really wasn't enough. I would have had to have full-time help in my own home and someone to drive me.
Yes. Safety first.
I would live with either of my children, and the answer is definitely no. I wouldn't want to, and they wouldn't want me to. And so my children decided maybe we better start looking for an assisted care place, and we did, and this was the best one we saw. The children weren't insisting that I do this. It was a family decision. And I think probably we made the right one. I prefer being independent. The facility itself is beautiful. The furnishings, the way it's decorated and all. The staff is wonderful.
See how it says SUB?
Oh, yeah, I want
Hit the backspace. You got it, exactly. Hit the backspace, and then you just make your correction. So Celeste is correct.
Okay.
And then you want
I read a lot, play bridge. Bridge is one of the very important parts of my life, and I do enjoy that. Unfortunately, no one here plays bridge except one other woman, so I depend on my friends to play bridge with. I've had to give up my independence to the extent that I have had to give up my car, and I really miss that very much. I think I'm still capable of driving, but my children don't.
I'm working hard today. And step forward. We'll do 2 more.
If you ask most Americans if they want to live longer, they'll say yes, as long as their remaining years are filled with productive and creative activities that will enhance their quality of life. But there are people who feel the need to live as long as possible because there are important things that remain unfinished, things that fuel their passions and keep them moving forward in time. In the case of noted sculptor and artist Bob Burks of Orient, New York, he wants 40 more years to be able to complete his life's work.
I have had the most incredible good luck in my life. And it's because I have a guardian angel. And my guardian angel is Chinese, and his name is Dumb Luck. Each generation produces a great portrait sculptor. And I just felt that this is my goal all my life. Say you had all the money you wished, and you wanted your great-great-great-great-grandchildren to know who you were. I will make your portrait. You put your name on it. Your name will go down. Your money will be gone in 3 generations, but your name and your image is there. This particular armature has been used for many of my heads. It actually was used in the making of my head of Albert Einstein in 1952. We put the clay onto this armature. Now, if you just put clay up and squeezed it, it would collapse like your flesh if you had no inner skeleton. We are building this out, and the consistency of the clay is crucial. I do most of my work in my head, and what happens is when I see something or see somebody, I follow the rules first, but then suddenly something happens, the hell with the rules, and I get the basic thing. That takes over. The rest of the time, I'm a bum like everybody else, but when I sculpt this thing, something takes over. Clay, Ray, more clay. Yeah, this is, I don't go to bed until about 1:30 or 2. And I fall asleep planning my next day. When I'm alone, every movement I figure out, I try it, and when that thing is right, I can do 5 days' work in 1 day. What age am I at right now? I'm 18 years old. That's what I feel. I'm no older than 18. That's when I felt I really had control. I was able to catch the essence of a person at that point. I knew it. I knew my drive, and I knew my feelings. The 2 things I liked the most was doing my art and finding pretty girls. Everybody from childhood up has a moment that they've done their best. And this is what I try to do. A person sense they're doing their best. I don't flatter them, and I don't denigrate them. I've lost about 3.5 inches of my height right now. I used to be 6'4", and but now I've shrunk. Been ill a couple of years. They said I had no platelets, for my bones were not producing the platelets. So all kinds of transfusions and everything else. I lost musculature, but I've come back from it. And I just hope and pray my luck continues and holds out. When I go to the studio, I don't feel my body. But at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I completely fall apart and I need an hour's sleep. Oh boy. I just pray and I don't lose my mind. I want to have the ability to work because my perception is deeper and simpler. That whole back of the head has not been developed. But I have so much to do. I want to take all this experience right now and make use of it. I feel I have 100 more heads in me and 10 more monuments. I've designed 30 monuments, only 17 have been built. I've made 300 separate people, sculpted them, 2,000 paintings, 6,000 drawings, and 100,000 photographs. When I was 80, I wanted 40 years, but I'll accept 39 now at 81. The reason I'm able to do all this thing, the best gift I ever got was meeting my wife. We've been married now for 50 years. She's a lot smarter than I am, a living dictionary.
That is terrific. Really.
And she corrects my imperfect memory. But she needs her privacy and I need mine. You can tell the relationship in a house, how big the man's room is. I have my own house. Recognition and reward. Everybody needs recognition and everybody needs reward. No matter if you're a superego or no matter what you do, you have to be recognized. There have been years I would do anything to get a commission. And then now suddenly it's all just pouring in and I need the years to do it. I really do. So everything comes around. Nothing comes from nothing in this world. When I'm gone, this whole area here, I want students to live here, go through my papers, go through the whole business there. And I want some young guy saying, that's how he did it, he does it better than me. The old saying is, you stand on the shoulder of the giant and you reach into the cookie jar. I've done that.
As I age, my own views of how I'd like to spend the last third of my life continue to change. The more I meet seniors who never seem to age physically or mentally, the more I realize how important it is to try to live those years as productively and creatively as possible. So let's remember, we can't help getting older, but there's no reason we have to feel old. Thank you.
I didn't know I was 50. And 60 passed me by, and 70 passed me by. But I've reached the point where I think I should balance my life.
I have to stop sometime and think how old I really am.
I want to take all this experience right now and make use of it.
If I were to admit to myself that I were going to retire at X point, I wouldn't have anything to look forward to.
This society needs to take advantage of the contributions that our seniors will have to give to them.
Not taking a risk, I think kind of leads to kind of live a dull life.
The internet for us seniors has been a tremendous asset. We can get on there and just go worldwide and do things that unheard of 10, 15 years ago.
Something comes along that's an opportunity for that I haven't done before, I'll be glad to try it out.
I didn't know what caregiving was until I was actually in the position of having to be a caregiver. And that was a rude awakening.
I don't know if we're going to be able to do that in the future. You know, and at one time, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I just took that for granted.
You start thinking about, all right, what is it that you want out of life besides working long hours every day, and what can you do to enhance the quality of your life and do things together while you have the opportunity?
I asked the Lord to let me stay in my own home and be in my right mind. Yes, stay there forever.
People would say, don't you miss it up here? All that brick and mortar that you have to keep in shape. You don't have to do that here.
It's more important for me to be able to say that I'm contributing rather than just a job.
We want something to do, and we want to do it well. We want to be loved and loved in return, and then we want something to hope for.
Getting older is having fun. It's okay. It's not going to hurt you.
To purchase a copy of this program, or for more information, visit www.forwardintime.com. Mass Mutual Financial Group is a marketing name for Massachusetts Mutual Life Insurance Company and its affiliates. Gynacare Worldwide, a Johnson & Johnson company, transforming women's health. ING Financial Services.
ING, the beginning of something better.
DePuy, a Johnson & Johnson company, working to improve your quality of life. Classic Residence by Hyatt, resort-style rental and continuing care retirement communities from coast to coast. Belmont Village. For more information about assisted living, please visit our website at www.belmontvillage.com.